Okay, so I listened to my previous video, the agenda, Solomon, my predecessor, and I have a few remarks to add. Not related to the remarks, but just I think they might be important, so I will add the remarks. First, let's say that the strong powers of this world actually, for the first time, listen to me and they want to help me because they understand the severity of the situation for Earth. So they don't know what's the best course of action. So the answer is very simple. The problem started with the ego, and the problem will be solved by letting the ego rest. This is not over philosophizing. This is the reality. The problem started with ego, and it will be solved with the letting the ego rest. What does it mean? You just need to listen. I repeat my message again and again. The optimal course of action for humanity now is very simple. Run to Israel, not walk, run to Israel with the mouth closed. Take me and my daughters, of course with their mother if she wants, and I don't see why she wouldn't want to, the mother in Ben Moshe, and by force, getting us out of here. And once we are out of the territory of Israel, we will discuss what are our plan. The general plan is to live in China, in Hong Kong. But you don't need to know anything more than that, because first, it's not going to be very special. I'm not going to ask you to be the king of Siam. I just want to live in a place where I will not be under attack all my life and physical and torture and mental tortures 24 hours a day. And also I want to be able to speak. I want to be able to freely communicate using my voice and using the internet, something that I've never had in Israel. So this is first way. We shouldn't discuss other issues besides my rescuing. And second is that it is a waste of time, because every hour that you spend moving your mouse and tongue is another step towards hell, and there aren't many left. You need to run. The mouth must be closed. If the mouth is open, our rescue will not have any success. This is a promise from God, a mathematical truth. You cannot rescue Noam David and his daughters from Israel if the mouth is open. This is an impossibility. You cannot speak and rescue us at the same time. It's either you stop speaking and rescuing us, or you continue our torture and speaking with each other, with the Israelis, with whoever. I say it every day, and this is still true. You need to run, not to walk. You need to run. To run to Israel to get us out. Any cooperation or coordination with the Israelis is not only not required, but will ensure in 100% the failure of this operation. This is a promise from God. If the operation will include in any of its parts, either planning or execution, speech with Israelis, it will fail in a horrible way. I will not be rescued, my daughters will not be rescued, and more calamities will come to earth. Now, the best is for the timing. The best time to do it is right now. The second best time to do it is a minute from now. The third best time to do it is 2 minutes from now. So this was the first remark. Second remark, what I've learned in this journey during the last 4 years is that actual intelligence services around the world are cooperating with each other much less than I thought or I assumed. the level of cooperation is much lower than I assumed. Even amongst like friends and allies. The only exception, and it's kind of like, it's a huge exception, and it's a peculiar exception, and even I would say sinful exception, but certainly stupid exception, is that some European countries, especially in the west of Europe, whatever the Americans say, they take it like a word of God. Like if the intelligence services if the CIA says something sends a message to any intelligence services of West Europe, they just from their point of view, it's like it's like God. It's set on stone. They don't need even to check it forever, which is extremely peculiar. First, it's peculiar. Second, it's stupid. Third, it's even sinful. In any case, they do not cooperate to the extent that I imagined, but to much lesser extent. So I can give you advice right now. We mentioned it's not Galileo was, I think, the Jupiter probe. It's called Magellan. It was done, if I'm not, it's easy to check it, but I am not knowing inclination. You can Google it. I think it was Magellan probe. I think it was a satellite, maybe hyperspectral, that was sent by Europeans and Americans together. Anyway, if you haven't done it already, a suggestion, I have some background in satellite images. I served for 6 years in a military unit that, in technological capacity. Of course, I was a computer programmer, but everything that I've done was related to satellite imagery. So, from that perspective, I can tell you, give you an advice. Perhaps if you have not done it yet, first, compare the images that you have of the Soviets have taken during the 60s and the 70s to those that were photographs by the Magellan during the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Now, how do I know that they photographed the same places? Because Magellan presumably was worldwide. It was a mapping satellite, so you should have everything of Venus, if I'm not mistaken. So, whenever they taken, you should have like a comparable one, if you haven't done it already. And second advice, if you still have a satellite over there, and I have a hinge, it's kind of an extreme long shot, and maybe it's not true, but something tells me that you have something comparable to Iconus B, or surrounding Venus. But of course, not everyone controls it, only the Americans. So if this kind of an extreme long shot is true, and you do have something like Iconus B, surrounding Venus, and you have the ability to take current photographs, maybe it's worthwhile to take photographs of the same places that the Soviets photographed, and do this comparison, and also compare it to the photo that you have as an output of the Magellan project. This is just an advice, and it shouldn't be too difficult. Just press of a button. And of course, it's mostly a political issue, not a technological problem. Now, I have during the last couple of weeks, I've said several times that the commanders of the starships do not understand flags and do not understand maps. They only work with balls, with planets or moons. And this is something that I came to understand. It took me a lot of time to understand it, in the last 4 years. But of course, it's not that they are stupid and do not understand what is flag or map. Of course, it's a divine principle. Israel is the cruel state, and it must be. And I have to get this out of his hell today. Me and my daughters, but all the world is guilty for what happened. if you can think that you can blame everything on like the existence of one clone or another Venusian clone of that Israeli operation or another, you are not only stupid but immoral. The relationship between the sins of the Israelis and the sins of the rest of the world was one of the main subject of my all the speeches that I had in the Evernote, like 2 years of recordings. I haven't taken the videos. I recorded myself. There are like 2 years of recordings in the Evernote account. If you don't have access to it, it should be, and everything is backed in my Google account, Gmail account, in Noamdav at gmail.com. Of course, it's private, but if you have access to the echelon, and Americans have access to the echelons, it shouldn't be a problem to get all of this recording. And yes, it's in Hebrew, so you will need, you will need a translator. It will take you some time because there are many hundreds, if not thousands of hours of records of me speaking. But one of the major subjects is how the sins of the Israelis are related to the sins of the world. So they're not stupid, the commanders of the starships. This cruelty is the sin of Earth. That's why the whole Earth is punished. Not only Israel. Now, another thing that should be said, that this is it's not a new principle. Of course, I mean, in the past, many nations did not even know about the existence of other nations, so it doesn't make sense from the moral perspective to blame people of the actions of people that they don't even know about. But regarding like adjacent nations, their codependency and was a major. Was a major, like a moral theme, not only in the Bible but actually even before the Bible. It was already in the tenet of thought by the writers of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the first epic known to humans that survived, which predates most of the Bible. I mean, the Bible was written through a long period of times, but I mean, it even predates the earliest parts of the Bible by a lot. And even then, I mean, it was already, one of the moral principles that, like, the guys uses the relationship between nations to, as a tool to a certain, to make justice in this world. Of course, it's only related to nations of the Near East that knew of each other. It's not, because, first of all, they cannot speak about anyone write about anyone that they don't know of, and then, it doesn't make sense. But yes, this is a very, very, very ancient moral principle, even that predates even the earliest part of the Bible. That the nations that are in relationship with each other are also, they share responsibility for major sins that take place. And today, all nations know of each other, so you are all guilty. Now, another note, which is kind of like technical but interesting from the symbolic aspect, is that the number of objects that is actually needed for what I call the perfect Cherubian room is 6, not 4, because there are the two sculptures, the two clay objects in the middle, but on the two sides there should be like 2 painting on each wall. That's why I have the idea of the sign of the 4, if you remember it. Many of my paintings are part of like categories under series. I spoke a lot about there are many videos in this channel that document this. That that there is like there's a series that's called Titanomachy. Titanomachy 1 and 2 was sold to my mother, the only photo painting that I ever sold, but I still have Titanomachy 3 and 4. And there are so there is the asteroid, the 5-stone curse with 4. So there are many of them who play 4. So we actually need 4. If you really want like a symbolic counterpart from the Bible, you can think about the wings of the cherubs. So so we have two wings. But I mean, the more practical, symbolical but practical explanation is that, first of all, the Nero's always walking. I mean, almost always. I mean, it's always the Nero's. Whenever there is a symbol for the Nero's, it's always two symbols. Always. As I said, if there is only one, then the other one is the body that is close to the symbol, which acts as a symbol. And there is a simple. There are many explanations for that, and I've discussed it in the past. But mostly, I mean, it's important because otherwise everything could have been a symbol. These creatures can watch atoms, like the Neros can identify subatomic particles. They can sense subatomic particles. So there is no such a thing as something that does not exist. There is always something somewhere. So I mean, you have to have at least two. So I mean, it will be manifestly true that that you meant to actually, create a meaningful thing. And it's not there just by accident or by because there is always some. When you think about it, if you have the resolution of view of like subatomic objects, if you even look like on an empty canvas, you see billions of germs or whatever. So you need to put two objects, one next to each other, in order for the symbol to be that. It will be clear that there is intention behind it. And second, if it was only one, then there was the problem of how can you even build it? Like I mentioned that there is like a law in Jewish halacha that you don't destroy a synagogue before you create like the new. If you create a synagogue, like it should be like maybe the synagogue should be destroyed because it's too small or it's too old. Sometimes you need to create a new one. It happens a lot. So there's kind of a law. That you don't. Before you buy you create a new one and only then you destroy the old one. So it's kind of it's not only just because to make sure that people will have wherever to pray, because maybe they can pray in another place on the meantime. But the idea is that while you are working on something, the work itself can symbolize something. So if you destroy the synagogue before you build the new one, it means that you want to destroy the synagogue. I don't say that this law makes sense from like a modern point of view, or that they justify this part of halacha or any other part of the Jewish halacha, or any part of the Judaism in general. As I said, Judaism is what the Jews are doing in Israel, and it's all sinful in a tremendous way. I use this logic to say that if you use only one symbol, there is a time that you create a symbol, and so presumably it should be in effect even then. So perhaps it could be like absurd. Like for example, maybe you want to, I don't know, to paint like a symbol of a person that is rich, or maybe the symbol for that, from the point of view of the Nero, I don't say that it's true, but maybe it's like a person that carries like a bag full of gold. So they will start to paint the person, but maybe you will paint only the person without the legs, and then you go to, I don't know, to eat lunch. So now the symbol is only a man without legs. So maybe this is what you meant to say is that this person should have no legs. It's just a naive example why two symbols are needed. So anyway, the perfect Caribbean room is actually two paintings on opposing walls with the two sculptures in the middle. And I should finish this Caribbean room with regards to the spaceships, and probably today, and paint. So yes, I cleared this wall, so there will be less of a misunderstanding. But I will replace the paintings later. But first of all, I need to work on the second starship, and it will take some time because it's quite elaborated, and there are both technical consideration and aesthetic considerations.